Hi, I'm Miss Tammy, and it's story time. Whether it's your first time or your third time with me, I'm glad you're here. I hope you like the story I wrote for you. It's called Bert the Grumpy Badger. I wrote it yesterday, March 22nd, 2020. Hope you like it. Have you ever woken up grumpy for no reason? Well, that's the way Bert the little badger felt this morning. Maybe it was because he got all twisted and tied up in his sheets and caused him to fall out of his bed and bang his head. Maybe it was because he forgot to pick up his toys and kicked the train and hurt his big toe. Whatever the reason, Bert was grumpy. And he went limping into the kitchen to show Mommy his big toe. And Mommy turned around. She had her beautiful pink apron on. Good morning, sweetheart. How are you? Well, Bert was grumpy, so he just waved at her and growled. He slumped into his chair. Mommy said, I made you oatmeal and maple and brown sugar. He stared at her a minute. I want waffles. And she said, Well, I'm sorry. I made you oatmeal and maple brown sugar. You like that for breakfast. I said, I want waffles. Mommy said, Well, you know what the rule is. You get what you get and you don't throw a fit. Maybe tomorrow we can have waffles. You're not listening. I want waffles, or I'm going to go away. Mommy said, Well, we're going to have maple brown sugar oatmeal this morning. Tomorrow, maybe we can have waffles. He got up and stomped off, completely forgetting about his sore toe. And he left his little badger hole and started digging to get away from Mama because he was not happy. And he started digging as fast as his little claws could go because badgers are really good at digging. And he dug and he dug and he dug until he saw a little light at the end of his tunnel. He reached out and pulled the last claw full of dirt and he started to fall. Galoopy-larny, head over heels, all the way down to the bottom of a valley. He landed upside down on his head. He stood up, shook his head, and shook all the dirt out of his fur. He was looking around, and it was a beautiful place. Birds were singing, the water was clear and gorgeous, and Bert was starting to smile and feel a little better. Then he remembered, no, I didn't get waffles and I'm grumpy. Well, about that time, a big, beautiful fish jumped out of the water, and it looked like on his side with his spots on it, looked like it said, I heart you. Well, that just made him even grumpier. And he turned around and started digging again. And he dug and he dug and he dug until his head hit a rock. And he dug straight up to see what it was, and he was at the base of a giant mountain. Well, maybe I'd go up there and nobody will bother me and I can be as grumpy as I want. So he climbed up this tall mountain. Got to the very top, sitting there mad. I really wanted my waffles and kicked my toy and fell out of bed. And he got to looking at these beautiful puffy clouds. And they started to move around and change shapes. And the clouds spelled out, I heart you. Well, that did not make him happy. So he climbed back down the other side of the mountain. And he went walking across this big, dry, empty pasture. It was almost like a desert because that's the way things work in Texas. There was nothing but mesquites and a few scraggly old scrub oaks and some cactus. He thought, fine, I'll sit here. This doesn't look very friendly. I'll sit here for a minute. And he leaned back against a mesquite tree, careful not to get any of the little mesquite thorns in him. Thought he'd lean back to take a nap because he was kind of getting tired. And as he's looking, he sees over in the distance there's a rock cliff. And he's staring at that rock cliff. And the cracks in the rock spell out, I heart you. That made him mad all over again. He just can't get away from that I heart you. Mm. So he kept walking. Well, he crossed a few creeks and crossed a few fences and got into a beautiful pasture. Green grass, blue bonnets, Indian paintbrush. It was beautiful. The Texas sky above was gorgeous. And then he heard a funny sound. He looked around, didn't see anything low. He looked up and it was a plane. And it was shooting smoke out of its rear end. And the smoke turned into the letters I heart you. He just can't enjoy his grumpy day. So he got up, dusted himself off, and started walking again. He got to the edge of a big, dark forest. And it was scary looking in there. He wasn't sure if he wanted to go in. But behind him, he could hear the birds from that pasture. And one of the birds started going, Mom loves you. Mom loves you. Mom loves you. He was thinking about going into that forest, but Mom loves you. Mom loves you. Mom loves you. His grumpy started turning into sad. And his sad started turning into kind of scared. So he turned around and started heading back towards Mom loves you. Mom loves you. Mom loves you. And he went back across the pasture. He went across the desert, saw the rock that said, I heart you. He went around the big mountain where the clouds were. And then he went up the valley and went back into his tunnel and crawled through his tunnel until he got back to his house. When he got back to his house, his mommy was waiting. He was so glad to see his mommy. He hugged her so hard it squeezed tears out of her eyes. She was so glad to see him, and he was so glad to see her. And he asked her, Mama, how did you always find me? She smiled very softly, and she said, Well, because you carried my heart with you. No matter where you go, no matter what you do, my love goes with you. The end. And that's the way it works when you love somebody, no matter where they go, no matter what happens in the big wide world. There is someone that loves you. I hope you have a wonderful day. I love you too. Bye.